Everyone, this is me Aastha, and today we're going to be talking about recent discoveries and changing perspectives. In our last video, we talked about introduction and was it civilization or organization. Today, we're going to be seeing what are the recent discoveries about related to Harappan civilization. So, around 8 decades or so since the momentous discoveries at Mohenjo-daro and Harappa, information about the Harappan civilization it has increased enormously, and new sites have been discovered, old sites have been excavated, and there are several new interpretations based on old and new discoveries. Okay, so the amount of data and information it has been steadily growing and continues to grow. And yeah, yet many aspects of the civilization remains mysterious and subject to vigorous debates, like for example the script we haven't deciphered it yet. So yeah. And the initial years after its discovery, the Mesopotamian link were crucial for dating the Harappan civilization, and some archaeologists tended to compare the two. And the thing is that it led to many questionable theories about Harappan origin. Like we'll talk about it. Like, did the origin from? They have this theory which is diffusion of diffusion, that they migrated from Mesopotamia to or and they came and settled here. So now it happened that because of these things, the questions are being put up, and the nature of origin and the nature of Harappan economy and polity. So, recent decade, what happened is that scholars have become more conscious about it and of the earlier biases that were present, and acknowledge the need to view Harappan civilization independently rather than through a Mesopotamian lens. Right? And then another feature of early decades of Harappan studies was an emphasis on urban settlement, especially Mohenjo-daro and Harappa. Apart from being the first site of the culture to be excavated, these two cities seem to stand out by virtue of their size and architectural features. However, several other sites are now known to be large or even larger than them. Example, Lurewala and Gan, Ganveriwala in Cholistan, Rakhigari in Haryana. I'm sorry if I mispronounced it. Dholavira in Gujarat. So, scholars have increasingly directed attention to these smaller, less important sites, including towns and villages. So, this includes the site of Aladino, which is near Karachi, a village settlement that measures only about 5 acres, but which reveals all the main features of Harappan civilization. Right. Another recent excavation site is Balu in Haryana, a small fortified rural settlement that has yielded a rich variety of plant remains. Profiles of different kinds of Harappan settlement are now available, and understanding of networks and connected cities, towns, villages is slowly growing. Okay. Although Harappan sites they share some common features, and there are also significant regions and inter-site differences. These are visible, for instance, in the layout of settlements and in the crops that people grew and consumed. There are also differences. So there are similarities in between the early, mature, and later Harappan phase, and also differences which are uh, differences in the types, range, and frequencies of artifacts. Like for example, in Aladino, the typical black on red Harappan pottery formed only 1% of percentage of total pottery finds. The mud brick platforms in southern part of the citadel complex at Bangan, which has been interpreted as fire altars. It did not occur in most other sites, right? So these are some of the differences, and there are also some various funerary practices, like post cremation burials, and numerous practices at Harappa, then at Mohenjo-daro. All this suggests the variations or variety of subsistence strategies, then food habits, craft tradition, religious belief, cultic practices, social customs, and so on and so forth. So these are there are some similarities and differences as well. Then the nature and the functions of certain structures, it has also been reconsidered in recent years. Like for example, there's this great question about granary, which has been found at Harappa and Mohenjo-daro. Harappa were granaries at all? Like, was it granary at all? So, and then there's the dockyard at Mothan, which the question has been put up that it was not dockyard, but it was for irrigation, it was a reservoir. So questions have been coming like recently, and the reinterpretations of these structures has important implications of the understanding of Harappan social and political system. For instance, the so-called granaries used to be cited to support the theory of strong and centralized state. Now, recent excavation at Harappan site reflects the changes in approaches, goals, and techniques within the disciplines of archaeology. A good example are the recent excavations at Harappa conducted by joint American and Pakistani team. Compared to earlier excavation at the site, these have been marked by much more careful analysis of the cultural sequences and the details of various parts of the residential areas. There are many different theories about almost every aspect of the Harappan civilization. Not all are equally acceptable, each has to be carefully examined. Conclusion can be reached on certain issues, while in other cases it is necessary to acknowledge the current limits of our knowledge. So, this is it about it. Now we'll come to Harappan Indus or Sindhu Saraswati civilization. Why do we call it Harappan or Indus or Sindhu Saraswati, and what is the appropriate name for it? So the first site of the civilization were discovered in the valley of Indus civilization. The first site was discovered in the valley of Indus and its tributary. Hence, it was given the name Indus Valley Civilization or Indus Civilization. Today, the count of Harappan site has risen to about 1022, of which 406 are in Pakistan and 616 in India. Of course, of these, only 97% have been so far person have been like so far been excavated. The area covered by the Harappan cultural zone is huge, ranging between 680,000 to 800,000 square kilometer, and sites have been found in Afghanistan, Punjab, it's mentioned here, Sindh, Balochistan, Northwest Frontier Province of Pakistan in India, Jammu, Punjab, Haryana, Rajasthan, Gujarat, Western UP in India, Uttar Pradesh, and the northernmost site is Manu in Jammu, district of Jammu Kashmir, and the southernmost is Malvan in Surat district of southern Gujarat, and westernmost site is Gagender on Makran coast of Pakistan, and easternmost is Alamgirpur in the Saharanpur district of Uttar Pradesh. I forgot to add this southernmost section, so I have added it now. So there is an isolated site at Chatugai in Afghanistan. This is a miscellaneous point, so I've mentioned it here. And now we'll come to geographical extent. And See, the civilization, it should make the objection to the terms like the vast geographical extent of the civilization. It makes objection to the term Indus or Indus Valley civilization, right? And also the term Indus Saraswati or Sindhu Saraswati civilization, right? Which has been used by many scholars. So the thing is that the large number of sites are located on the bank of Ghaggar Hakkar River, which is identified by some scholars. with ancient Saraswati mentioned in Rig Veda. However, the sort of objection to Indus or the Indus Valley civilization can also be applied here, which is when it comes to Indus Saraswati or Sindhu Saraswati civilization. So it is not confined to these valleys, right? Not only Indus or not only Saraswati or Ghaggar River, right? So it is like spread uh, everywhere. This is the reason why here it has been mentioned it would be best to call it Harappan civilization on the basis of archaeological convention, because we call the civilization uh, on the basis that first site was which was excavated was Harappan. This is the reason why we call it Harappan civilization, and we should call this Harappan civilization instead of calling it Indus Valley civilization or Sapta Sindhu or any civilization, right? So the use of the term Harappan civilization, it does not imply that all other sites are identical to Harappan, right? And or the cultural development was or that the culture developed first in this place. No, this is not the reason, and I said you the reason. In fact, Caution he asserts that it is necessary to break the Harappan monolith into sub-regions, which he calls domains, right? So now newspapers and magazines, they sometimes announce the discovery of new sites of Harappan civilization. This is done on the basis of checklist of archaeological features, like for example pottery. It is an important marker. The typical Harappan pottery is red with designs painted on it black, right, in black, and has a certain range of forms and motifs. Other material traits associated with the civilization include terracotta cakes, like pieces of terracotta, usually triangular, sometimes round, and precise function is unclear. Okay, we don't know what was its function. So here I have mentioned. So what are its features? So then the other feature is the standardized brick size, which was in 1 is to 2 is to 4 ratio. And certain types of stone and copper artifacts were used. Basic set of Harappan material traits are found associated with each other at a site, and it is described as Harappan site. Okay. Now we'll talk about the division, right? Cultural processes. See, here, Harappan culture was actually a long and complex cultural process consisting of at least three phases, which are early Harappan phase, mature Harappan, and then late Harappan. Now, early Harappan phase was a formative, proto-urban phase of culture. The urbanization was happening, and now we'll come to mature Harappan phase. Now, this at this phase, Harappa, the culture was flourishing, right? It was an urban phase, full-fledged stage of civilization. This is the reason we call it urban phase. And then late Harappan phase. Now, this at this time, the it was declining. Cities were declining, so we call it post-urban phase. Now there are other terminologies for this as well. Now this person, Jim Sheriff, he has used the term Indus Valley tradition. Okay, for long series of human adaptation, starting from Neolithic Chalcolithic stage to the decline of Harappan civilization. Within the large sequence, he used the term regionalization era for early Harappan phase, and integration era for mature Harappan phase, and localization era for late Harappan phase. The early Harappan, mature Harappan transition, and mature Harappan and late Harappan transition are also treated as separate, distinct phase. In this, this is the basic thing about it, and then here it's mentioned about the time period. So I have mentioned here only in the same line instead of talking about it and dealing with it separately. So here and this in the last paragraph of this section, it talks about the time period. So the Early Harappan phase is time period was from 3200 to 2600 BC. I haven't mentioned BC, so it's obvious. And then mature Harappan's phase was around 2600 to 1900 BC, and late Harappan was 1900 to 1300 BC. So this is it. If you like my video, do like, share, and subscribe. Thank you.